Mo Sangha is here. The YouTube Mo Sangha is there. All you practitioners, so happy for your practice, your diligence, and I hope you're finding good primary sources. I hope you're getting a good, clean introduction to the Dharma, free of obstacles and confusion. And as usual, may this text exploration benefit all beings. So I'll just say again, this text is Niguma text. She was a yogini from 1,000 years ago, the turn of the millennia, just like we experience now. And she's actually considered close to Naropa and Tilopa, but also others like Lavapa and Maitri, and many yogis around the Bengal area, or one of our friends, our Sangha is from here. They're there now, so that's interesting. Maybe they can visit Kumar village, where I think there's pretty good evidence that Naguma was in Kumar village in Bengal rather than Kashmir, but that's a debate for scholars and historians probably. So this book is translated by Sarah Harding. I think she's done a wonderful job. She has a great vocabulary. She's working with Tibetan texts that are pretty new to the West and has managed to piece it together, translate it. 17 Naguma texts found in the Tibetan, most likely the Tengjur, the commentaries. And Tibetan Buddhism, they have the Kongjur and the Tengjur. So Buddha Vachana is the Buddha Shakyamuni's actual words, which would be the Kongjur. And then the commentaries on that, similar to Abhidhamma, would be considered the Tengjur. So she got these 17 texts. And then Taranatha's biography, from what I remember, is around the 1500s, so 16th century, 500 years after Naguma. So I don't know how accurate that one's going to be, but it is held in high esteem. And it essentially says that Naropa went out, had his people go searching for a consort, a partner, and they ran into Naguma under auspicious circumstances. And then they ended up matchmaking, I suppose, Naguma and Naropa. And then, of course, we do have pretty strong evidence that Naropa was sending students to Naguma, possibly positioning her as a senior practitioner. And of course, her father was a Brahmin saint, a Brahmin preacher. Yeah. So she would have had some kind of spiritual status there. But she was a total renunciate. If you look at Kumar village, the few videos, and if you ever get a chance to visit there, they venerate Naguma and they have a charnel ground there. And some texts in the 17 talk about that she was wearing bone necklaces, right? And as I mentioned, please don't wear bone necklaces if you have dogs. It can be problematic. I lost a very great mala like that. Yeah. So, and then diving a little bit further, this is going through the five paths. And so, pretty typical. You see in Mahayana and you see in Vajrayana the five paths, and even some people approaching Dzogchen like to use the five paths. The five paths correspond with the 10 bhumis. The 10 bhumis are stages, essentially like the jhanas are within the first three bhumis. So they're stages. Stages of what, you may ask? Well, we start out a hot mess. So the stages are lessening and lessening of our hot mess. You can look at it like that. And it's almost like we're traveling. We're on a path, right? That's what defines the word path, is that we wish to get somewhere. And so that's what makes it a path. And so let's say I'm looking in front of me here, and far off in the distance, I see the town of Taos, New Mexico. And so I have to, before I even see that town, I have to know about it. I have to learn, I have to have a thought in my mind about going to Taos. So without even seeing it, I have this thought. I want to go to Taos. But it's very cold, so I need to prepare. I'm going to wear something warm and a good jacket and da 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 da. So this is the first path of accumulation. You're accumulating the necessary resources for your path, right? And then the path of joining is when you actually probably get up and start walking. You're walking in the direction kind of blindly. You start trusting the Dharma. You know there's something to it, to this mindfulness stuff, to this compassion stuff. So you start walking. And then as you're walking, you see the town of Taos. This is the path of seeing. Now you see where you're actually going. So it's interesting in the second line here, it tells you what you're seeing, non conceptual timeless awareness. That is what we see. And it's so interesting how 1,000 years ago, Dzogchen Mahamudra was perfectly mingled into Naguma's presentation here. Um, she calls it the path of illusion, illusion being a synonym for emptiness. But I really want to ask, how can you truly be on the path of seeing if you have not recognized the nature of mind? You understand? You have to see where you're going. And so when we recognize non conceptual timeless awareness, then that is what we familiarize with. So just like I keep walking to Taos, I know the direction I'm going in. I'm familiarizing more and more. And as I get closer to town, I start to see everything. I start to see the location. It's no longer me seeing it. Now I'm in it. Now I'm in town, right? Well, now you're in awareness. You're no longer glimpsing it, having small glimpse, but now you're resting in a pure presence. And the only way really that's possible is to allow this awareness nature to more and more bring you into empty cognizance. Everything is consciousness. There are no reference points. Reference points are clouds of consciousness aggregated. And so, with these reference points that we create with mind, these knots, they assume a divisive positioning, but we can relieve that within awareness. So, subject and object, that very reference point starts to alleviate, just like when you soak the grimy dishes, where we're soaking in awareness and our karmic patterns, our obscurations, our affliction is peeling away, slowly softening, and then peeling away within awareness. But if you're not positioning yourself into non conceptual awareness, if you're not familiarizing with it, if every time I say rest in awareness, you don't even have to try to rest in awareness, and you kind of blah, blah, blah goes in one ear and out the other, like they say, pouring tea into a pot that has a hole in it, right? Uh, and this is distraction. Usually, distraction means you cannot listen to the teachings for more than 5 minutes without getting distracted. And so, when you're distracted, you cannot learn very well. This is a secret to, if you really want to be very, very intelligent, then be compassionate, one, because that gives you the pliancy and the openness, but also uh, work on single pointed concentration. Focus on an object for a week. I don't know. But that habit of distraction needs to peel away. It's very difficult to learn when you're distracted all the time or even absorb truth. You'll be caught up in delusions. And this is pointed out in modern psychology as well. Okay. With that passing the basketball around. Can you count how many times the basketball gets passed around in intro psychology, right? They show you that video. And while you're counting that basketball, you miss other things. You miss big things that are right in your face because you're focused on that, you're distracted focusing on the basketball. Now comes the question, can you still count the basketball and see everything at the same time? The only way is really resting in open awareness. So when we're distracted, we're not seeing other stuff. That's pretty simple. Uh, so the path of seeing is very important. This is where the first bhumi starts, where you truly start to come into the eightfold path of that first right view. And I could probably continue to talk about this. I feel like it's not out there. It needs to be out there, approaching the Eightfold Path from a Dzogchen point of view. But I'll go ahead and start the reading now because I do feel I gave a good enough introduction or reminder of the context of this particular teaching. Yes, so Omara Bhajana Di. We shall explore once again stanza 83. In the last moment of supreme Dharma, non conceptual timeless awareness of the path of seeing is the natural arising of illusion that has the characteristic of being incontrovertible. Seeing what was not seen before is the timeless wisdom of the path of seeing. The seven branches of enlightenment are the meditative absorption on the path of seeing. See, and this also tells you in stanza 84 that we're kind of dealing with Dzogchen here. Not kind of, really. If the seven branches of enlightenment, they're not being cultivated as they would be in Sutrayana. She's saying that they are meditative absorption. So that means your joy, your concentration, your pliancy, your meditative insight, these seven factors, right? These seven branches of enlightenment. And there are many teachings on those seven that you can explore, but very interesting. And those will always sound a little bit different in Vajrayana as they would in Mahayana or in Dzogchen as they would in Vajrayana. So to me, I feel like over 1,000 years, this text has been uh, cornered into Mahamudra, like it's a Mahamudra text, uh, neglecting the fact that in Nyingma, which came before the Sarma traditions, before Kagi was even around, Nyingma has always had a union of Dzogchen and Mahamudra. For example, the lineage that my mom and I have been a part of for such a long time is a Dzogchen Mahamudra lineage, the Palo lineage. And of course, Karma Chagme has a wonderful teaching on that, and also Gyatso Rinpoche, who recently passed in this book, not just Spaciousness Path to Freedom, but many other texts, I think, unionizing that Dzogchen and Mahamudra. But since illusion, which is beyond intellect, involves no deliberate application of mindfulness, all phenomena are seen as non-entities. This is the mindfulness branch of enlightenment. Very good. So it's going to go through the seven branches according to Niguma 1,000 years ago, starting with the first branch of mindfulness. Remember, illusion, as far as our experience, how do we access illusion? I just want to point that out so it's not all totally foreign to you or distant to you. Um, the way we access illusion is by resting in awareness and that reference point, that feeling of me sitting here, or somebody says something to you, I'm offended and it hit me, and I'm having a bad life, and this whole world is not a good world for me, and right, it's this reference point, and that reference point, a cloud of consciousness that can actually soften and peel away, and what you have left over is emptiness, illusory reality, all mind. Ah, now you're really coming closer to your super spacious, macro spacious mind. Macro spacious mind. We're going to have to start a dictionary in this group. Yes, come into your macro spacious mind, okay? So, practicing illusion like experience with regard to all illusion like phenomenon, there is no frame of reference for truly existent phenomenon, virtuous, non virtuous, or indeterminate. This is the direct revealing of phenomenon branch of enlightenment. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put the second branch of enlightenment there. If I mean, if you compare that to, well, maybe we shouldn't. If you compare that to the suttas, well, there's so many translations. Maybe we shouldn't. It's very interesting. It's basically saying once you see the emptiness of Dhammadhatu, that's the second branch. It's again Ati Yoga Dzogchen. So, since all concepts are eradicated in illusion, which is free from all fixation, striving without accepting or discarding phenomenon is the diligence branch of enlightenment. Yeah, she's certainly giving us a Dzogchen Mahamudra, seven branches of enlightenment, which you won't see that too often. But here it says, since all concepts are eradicated in illusion, so that means emptiness. How can you have concepts within emptiness? There's no one to have the concepts or to cling to the concepts. So you have no proliferation, no fixation. Remember, fixation is very early on in the 12 links of dependent origination, right? You have fabrications and you really have this ignorance, which initiates the whole thing. But it says here, striving without accepting or disregarding phenomenon is the diligence branch. So that's the fourth um, foundation of mindfulness, all dharmas. And if we just like Longchenpa says, if we let all four foundations of mindfulness just be, our thoughts, our emotions, our body, our environment, just let it be throughout the day. You're still going throughout your tasks. You're not turning into a zombie, you know? So you're gonna let it be. What you start to see is that your actions, you're already doing non-action. You're already doing nothing. If I take a drink of water right now, there's absolutely nothing I need to contrive. It's all happening in a kind of co-emergence of mind. So this is pretty radical here, and without accepting or discarding phenomenon. Go about your day, all sights, sounds, feeling, everything, smells. I mean, when the dog farts, I really want to discard that. But you cannot discard that. Permeates the whole room, and you have to kind of have this diligence. I'm sorry. I know I'm getting silly, but that is one of the. I've been part of this group for over 10 years, and that was one of the biggest challenges when I'm sitting here meditating and one of the dogs farts, or the cat farts or something like that. It's really a challenge for the meditator. Before it was my mom's dog that did it. Now I have the pleasure of having my own dogs. But thankfully, if you keep their diet pretty clean, then if you don't give them too much junk food, it won't be so bad. Oh, you may ask yourself, why am I diverting into the gases of the dogs? I don't know. So let's get back to the text. So, since joy and sorrow are eradicated with regard to illusion, which is free from rejection or acceptance, joy about habitual phenomenon is not aroused in the disciplined mind. This this is the joy branch of enlightenment. Yeah, Jetson, I know you know, but you got two of them. Yes, so here is a very interesting man. We could really make a session out of each one of these. I'm starting to find. Since joy and sorrow are eradicated with regard to illusion, so you're no longer your joy isn't conditioned, isn't based on it's not dependent on phenomenon. So something good happens, something bad happens. We have the horse farmer story again, right? So with regard, illusion is free of rejection and acceptance. Joy about habitual phenomenon is not aroused in the disciplined mind. So this means that, for example, we had a Sangha friend get very joyful about a new job. I mean, that happens, but your joy is completely dependent on external phenomenon, which can be pulled from you so quickly. So at first you may say, "Hey, what am I not supposed to have joy about good stuff?" it's not that. It's that first retrieve your joy. Make your joy yours. Don't make it somebody else's. Otherwise, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they employ a lot of people. They control your joy then, whether you have a job or not. And we don't want that. We don't want somebody else to control our joy. So, because there is no reference point to whatever one references, since illusion has no existence in essence, there is mental agility regarding all phenomena. This is the mental agility branch of enlightenment. Even illusion itself is not truly existent. The realization that follows the eradication of phenomenon does not reference even the mind. This is the meditative absorption branch of enlightenment. So you don't cling to emptiness, pretty common advice. Illusion, which dwells nowhere, creates no dependency, attachment, or bondage. No concern with phenomenon is the equanimity branch of enlightenment. That's the great equilibrium, the great evenness that's mentioned by Longchenpa a lot, and also one of the five wisdoms. Once accustomed to the meditative absorption from day through half the night, all aspects of appearance and sound will arise as illusion, without intrinsic existence, limitless appearance inseparable from emptiness. Just as bubbles arise and dissolve back into the sparkling sea, so thought bubbles also cannot be anywhere else except in the ocean of phenomenon's nature. So rest at ease without rejecting or accepting. At that time, the fog of conceptual patterns becomes baseless and cannot disturb. I see what I was just saying. Who can be there to have the concepts? There's no base for it. Having generated certainty and conviction, one gets used to just that without adding or subtracting anything. Having engaged this by blending it with devotion, the deity's body appears clearly without concept, blissful without fixation, and free of craving, naturally arisen, naturally liberated, and uncompounded. Okay, we can pause there, even though it's almost finished. I think I don't want to rush anything. Okay, so thank you so much. Another journey through the five paths, and this is the path of seeing. So lots of interesting stuff. That's why I wanted to share it with you all. I hope you'll find some stuff in there for yourself to be interested in, because of course, even Buddha Shakyamuni, I think, said the Dharma should be fun. It should be joyful. We should not stress ourselves and force ourselves to do the Dharma. All right. Thank you, everybody, again so much.